Shifting gears, man. The Bengals are being Bengal-esque right now. You know what I'm saying? I know this is a wild topic, but I'm just gonna toss it over to you. Should Joe Burrow demand a trade, man?
Uh, I mean, if he's, it's tough because I think that he wants to keep playing with Jamar Chase. Like I think that their connection is like really, really insane. But like if I'm looking at it outside of that, I just think the Bengals are a really bad franchise. I think we probably talked about this before because it's the same in the NBA. It's the same in pretty much most sports leagues. Like bad franchises are bad franchises for the most part. Um, and I think there's always something as well to like a really poorly run franchise. Because there are teams that are bad, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this is always a poorly run franchise and people have bad things to say. But
Yeah.
um, the Bengals just always botch stuff. Like always, this stuff with Trey Hendrickson, the thing like you want to keep T. Higgins. Why? Why? You have a number one wide receiver who is objectively in the top two at his position in the league. You don't need another top 15 wide receiver. You need to spend that money on an offensive line. You need to spend that, in other places on defense and stuff like that. I just think that the way that they've been building their team is just been really awful. And I always see this graphic where it's like Joe Burrow with protection passing to anyone and they can catch the ball versus Joe Burrow with no protection. And it's like Jamar Chase down the field trying to wave his hand, but Joe can't get him the ball because everything's in his face. So, and I get keeping Jamar Chase, but like you can't keep both of these guys and they keep stringing it out. And like, yeah, I think this would have been a great opportunity to have traded him for like an offensive tackle or something like that, or a draft pick that you could use. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see him in a competent franchise,
Mhm.
but I don't know if he's the type of person to try and do that.
Yeah, I mean, because for the most part, 9 times out of 10, when you a franchise QB, you most likely gonna stay with that team more often times than not. But yeah, man, like you said, shitty organization, bro. Shitty organization. You can't just, like you said, expect to pay three people who are making. I have to look at the numbers. I'm just gonna throw out some random shit, like damn near 70% of your fucking um payroll, so expect to compete as well too. And we need to stop living off of what happened a year or two after, or a year, I think a year after COVID when they, ran it up and ended up going to the Super Bowl as well too. But like you said, we view Joe Burrow as I mean, I'm gonna say tier one unless you have like your Mahomes and as everyone else. I'm completely fine with that. But if we're going with tier one quarterbacks, I'm putting him up there with Josh Allen, with the Mahomes, and regular season Lamar Jackson as well too. So we're saying that, like you said, it's fine to pay one wide receiver, but if you guys believe that Joe Burrow is this great, then he can do what Josh Allen do. He can do what Lamar do. He can do what Mahomes do. Or it's like you take
What
away
Tom Brady did.
weapons and I can disperse everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So I really don't know what's going to happen. I need to also check to see if they have their draft picks next year as well too, because you got to get better. And I think over the past year they've drafted offensive linemen, but maybe like you said, it starts from the top down. So even though they're drafting these people, maybe the developmental team for the offensive line is just trash as well too. I don't know what's going on. And on top of that, like you said, their defense is so bad. So being there those past couple of years, I think this is going to be I think his third season he hasn't played because he tore his ACL and then he missed, I think, most of one of the other seasons with his wrist. So he's
Yep.
had a torn ACL, he's had a torn MCL, he has a torn wrist, and now he has a toe issues. I don't want him to get to that point where it's like the offensive line never improves and he's like an Andrew Luck where he's just like, yo, fuck this, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? I can't keep dealing with this. Or just how at certain points in time with the Dallas Cowboys with Tony Romo, like they never had a great offensive line. And then when they finally did, he was pretty much damaged good. So
Yeah.
I'm him, man. Maybe you give it one more year, and hey, at that point, you may have to say fuck it. You may have to go out there and try to get another quarterback from the draft, or say fuck it. Hey, this is our high asset. We can get a lot from him, and we can actually make some tweaks in the front office and start over. So I think that's the best case scenario for them because if they keep this continue, if this continues to happen, then they're always going to be a middle of the pack team, and like you said, relying on if someone's going to be available or not. You know what I'm saying? And I don't really
Yeah.
think he's made of glass, so to say. Like you said, I think it's just a shitty ass offensive line, so he's more susceptible to